There's really something to be said about making sure that within yourself you are at peace. Because the more stressed you are, the more your body will break down.
Oh my God.
And the more you harm yourself.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. This is Forever Young. I'm Dr. John Layke.
And I'm Dr. Danielpour.
Today, we've got one of the best and craziest stars, and we are ready to pick his brain a little bit. Jonathan Tucker, thank you so much for joining us.
You know, all too frequent client.
Thank God on a random evening at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, I had the pleasure of meeting you.
Yeah.
And what happened that time?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of, there's a few things to acknowledge. One, how lucky we are to be alive today with the medical care that we have. I mean, it's just crazy. You're waking up in America and basically like, you're not going to die. Like you're like a helicopter away at
We've
worst.
already set the bar.
It's unbelievable. I know, but you think about it, it's like unbelievable, the advancement alone, but then the access too. Even with all of the problems we have with healthcare insurance and all of the issues around, there is an emergency room. There is a great doctor within a helicopter ride at the furthest.
A specialist that comes in, it's one of those things.
It's incredible. I mean, it's really, and then you become a parent, it becomes all the more like important.
Oh, man.
And then we're in LA. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm a Boston guy, but I can also acknowledge that we're one of the greatest medical cities in the world.
For sure.
At the most advanced time. At one of the most extraordinary institutions at Cedars-Sinai. And you don't really think about it oftentimes, thank God, until you're in a vulnerable position. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm the luckiest person alive. I mean, just unbelievable. Yeah. And I had no idea.
You want to talk to my wife?
Yeah. But I just had no idea that I knew I was gonna get somebody great, but I didn't know I'd get here I am. I've got my whole, eye opened up from this TV show, a stunt gone awry, all good. But, my eyes, it was like 30 some odd stitches or whatever. And, there's one level of like, am I gonna be alive for sure? But then there's another level of like, I have my whole livelihood. I support my family with this profession.
Moneymaker.
And it's real though. It's like a joke, but it's real, know?
Yep.
And who comes strutting in slow motion, taking off the gloves,
background music,
with the thing, the smoke up, puts the cigarette down. He's like, I got this, And, lo and behold, I get one of the single greatest plastic surgeons in the world. And I know you guys do a lot of cosmetic stuff, obviously, but what's important, I think, for people to know is that for somebody like me, who is in a really vulnerable position, you guys do a lot of really important work for people that doesn't end up on the social media. And I'm very, very grateful for it. And then we become pals, and I've cracked my head open a few other times. And you guys have opened it up.
I was going to say, bring us through these scenarios.
Repeat business.
Bring us through these scenarios.
Usually Muay Thai and other MMA related activities. But then I found, the Stitch, program that you guys have.
Yeah.
Has been like amazing. I've had 2 or 3 people who've been like, I can't believe what godsend product that is, or the idea.
Think about it, especially even for kids.
It's just
that was,
oh my gosh.
We started it 13 years ago, and the funny part, I'll never forget, we purchased the smallest billboards on Olympic. I think there were 6 by 6 feet that said Stitch MD got a cut or something like that.
And they were peeling off at one point.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
We would ride by them.
For this thing?
We would ride by them 3 days a week just to kind of check them out, see if anyone else was looking. But the service that we developed, it was a 24-hour laceration service. Plastic surgeons, meet you in the office. You bypass the emergency room.
Oh my gosh.
Sitting in the emergency room, even as I walked through there, you can feel your blood pressure go up a little bit because you see stacked. The room is stacked. People are waiting for hours. Or people holding bloody bandages.
Coughing on you.
Yeah, exactly.
People are sick in there. You're not really sick. You just have a little cut. So it makes a big
difference. I mean, this is like the height. It's like, I can't remember the exact prices, but they were totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. Right. I've seen people who've got lots of money and people who've got not a lot of money, and everybody walked out equally as happy. It's just great. And again, you're asking like how I'm doing, and I'm talking about how lucky I feel. I mean, how many parents do you guys know who might have a kid in getting chemotherapy?
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting there holding your kid's arm being like,
totally.
I wake up every morning, I got 2 healthy kids. The amount of complaining people do. You're here in LA, you get a little cut on your kid's head. You could be sitting in an emergency room for 3 hours as he's crying and screaming. No. And no. I can call this number and get my head stitched up. I'm just, the amount of complaining is gotta.
The one thing that we often notice, think about is the ease of access is one thing, having the specialist there, the very fact that you get the treatment, but what we also do is the management afterwards. I think sometimes, depending on where the cut is, you cut your scalp, you can go to the emergency room and they can suture it up. But it's the management afterwards where we follow them for the year to make sure that whatever we stitch up actually looks pretty good. Otherwise, no one's going to come back, God forbid.
But I love this is my duty is to make this into an infomercial for Beverly Hills Healthcare. But it's totally honest. I mean, dude, when you feel vulnerable and you're a parent, it's like this stuff is very real. And the thing that you were talking about, access is one thing. The step before that is just knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, now that we've got text threads with all of our preschool parents and stuff, be like, please save this phone number. This is a really important one. There's a high probability that one of you is going to need this.
Yeah.
It's true. And it really does. It's more of a service to the community.
It's incredible.
Because it also, during COVID,
you're not getting rich off
ends up helping out. It really ends up helping the emergency room.
For sure.
Because the emergency room and the hospitals, they were so inundated with real stuff that a little cut was like, you can't come in here right now. So we were bombarded. We were coming in here stitching up everybody because we felt like as a duty, we had to help the hospital. So also that kind of,
especially during, it really came through in COVID when no one wanted to go to the hospital.
Right.
They'd be like, come to my house. I'm like, no, come to my house.
Yeah.
It is wild though, like in medicine. I mean, it's just an incredible thing, particularly, I know it's simple lacerations, but you guys do this in other versions as well. Like the literal skill set that is so unique. I mean, there's not a lot of things out there like that are of that level where it's like these hands literally know how to do it. And with this, it's string and a needle. I mean, for better,
seamsters. And, the funny part is I think both of us, I can speak for him as well. We feel the same way you do. We're the luckiest guys on the planet. We come to Beverly Hills, we have this practice. We love what we do.
We get to meet guys like you.
Yeah, that's right. You get to meet guys like me.
Change some lives, I mean, it's a lot of fun. So
it does come through like following, we were joking about me following you guys on social media. And I love like all the surgery posts.
He's our biggest fan on Instagram.
Big fan. I'm like, get him guys, go in there, cut it up.
Exactly.
It's clear that you guys like what you do. Like it's very clear.
Yeah.
It's so authentic that you guys really enjoy what you do. And if you're going to be working with somebody, and regardless of what profession, you want them enthusiastic.
And it's cool hanging out with your buddy too. So
you still get along.
Yeah, makes it easy. You see this double desk right here. Yeah. It's so funny. Everybody walks in, they're like, "This is Nip Tuck."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is real.
But now you've talked a lot about us, so people that are listening, I want you guys to know who Jonathan Tucker is. For those of you that don't know him, now obviously, a lot of fame for the show Kingdom that's on Netflix now, right?
It was on Netflix during COVID. It's bounced around. Now it's on Peacock.
On Peacock.
Peacock.
It's the NBC network. So that's
correct.
That's a good one too. But that's the big one that was out many. How many seasons does that have?
We did 40 episodes.
So that's great. And if you've seen it, you see what kind of ripped monster of a human he is. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to give you a little more background. And I like this because I'm going to read it off this IMDb site. Okay.
Oh boy,
so film and television actor, born in Boston, Massachusetts. That's something very near.
Anybody can contribute to these. This is not like an official bio. This is
I love it though.
This is like a duct tape version.
These are things that I'm learning. So while he was in the third grade, he was a part of a ballet production called The Nutcracker.
I mean, what's incredible is just the precision.
Ballet.
Punctiliousness, which you guys operate in your professional life, is really, this is like duct tape version of my bio. But keep going, it's good.
But that is correct. The ballet Nutcracker is fabulous. Are you still a ballerina?
Well, what's funny is that, ballet was a huge part of my life growing up. And I want my son to do ballet. It's great for young.
What about your daughter?
But that's fine. But young men get a lot out of it.
Nimble on your feet and
the discipline.
Yeah,
that's good.
Just my son is just like my daughter. She can like sit down and listen. But boys, particularly at a young age, like they need the discipline. They need to learn how to control their body. Use the control their ability to
focus.
Freak out and focus. One or the other. But it was the closest thing that I found to ballet has been Muay Thai, which sounds crazy, but it's to music. There's a march, there's a cadence. It's all a lot of leg work and kind of pivoting or pirouetting. So
That's cool.
Yeah, transition from ballet to Muay Thai.
So for everyone that listens, if these classes that we take as kids, they actually end up really helping us later in life. I used to say the same thing about physics and geometry and things that you just learned that you're like, what the hell am I going to use this for? But it ends up really helping out. But I'm going to keep going, and you can
go ahead.
kind of come in. So after high school, earned his admittance to Columbia. That I did not know either. Yeah. So not only is he handsome and ripped, but he's very smart. Columbia University is one of the most difficult schools to get into in the world. So
I like that.
We've got
pushed that one for my parents.
So what did you learn there?
Well, I've learned not much because I didn't go, but I would love to go at some point. I would defer. I mean, I don't understand why we send kids to college at 18 and 22 anyways. It's like crazy. I mean, it's just so crazy. It's like such a detriment to the country, how much loans people take on to go to school at 18. When half of these kids end up, wanting to socialize, which is totally natural.
Yeah.
So why aren't they socializing until they're 20? It's just nuts. It's absolutely
maybe
crazy.
A little life experience first, and then.
But it's like a national. There's like all these issues that we don't appreciate are like national defense issues. Like that's a national defense issue. You're talking about education.
Absolutely.
And they're going to spend half these kids are going to spend 18 to 20 drinking or sleeping late or not listening,
and not going to school. Of course not.
And they're going to and their parents are either draining a ton of money into it, or they're taking on all this debt. It's like this is just such a bad idea.
It's actually very.
Wouldn't you love to take 4 years right now and go to school? I mean, just sit back and go incredible,
everything that you wanted to learn but never had a chance,
or things that you didn't even know you wanted to learn.
Think about some countries. Some countries make you go and give you a year or 2 years of service.
It's great.
And sometimes that 1 year or 2 years of service is that time for you to kind of think about what you want to do, right? And then take it from there. So maybe that should be the
Israel,
way to go.
buddy.
Israel's the way to go. I don't want to promote Israel because there's so many haters. But
I'll promote it with you, pal. I very much appreciate your vocalization of being. It's an important issue to talk about.
I think so. If I look at IMDb, you've got credits up and down, film and movie star and television star.
What was your favorite?
There you go.
The thing about Kingdom is just because you have so much time on a project, it often takes on a larger kind of more weight in your spirit. So I would say that's probably the most important
number one
part of my.
If anyone who's seen Kingdoms, I've seen pretty much all of them. It is based out of Venice, California. It's out of a boxing gym, right? MMA. And Jonathan, if you see it, is as in perfect shape as possible. And as a plastic surgeon.
Those guys are you want to honor, you're trying to honor all these different kinds of people you're playing.
So here's my question, because I do a lot of liposuction on men and women. And the one thing I tell them is I can do only so much. You've got to take it from there. Talk to me, and for our listeners, go through how you've become so disciplined. Tell me about your eating habits, how you work out, what are the do's and the don'ts, and for us fat, lazy men out there, how we can even come just, a tenth as close to what you are now.
Well, I mean, going back to the ballet, the discipline was a really important part of that. My grandmother, who was instrumental in me getting into ballet and then in turn into acting, gave me this little piece of paper off of a refrigerator that was the Calvin Coolidge speech on persistence. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I remember reading it and kind of getting it, but getting only a certain part of it. And as I've gotten older, it's so simple. It's so much of it. It's such a tropey sort of thing. People read it all the time, but it's just so true. Is that you've got more talented people out there, smarter people out there, better looking, whatever it is, all these different kinds of betters. And ultimately, those attributes are not the ones that get people to first place. It's perseverance.
You're right.
And so the discipline is really there. And I've talked to some significantly more successful people about this in all sorts of fields, but just in acting in particular today. It's the people who are taking your jobs and no one's taking your job. That's such a total myth. It wasn't your job.
Yeah.
No one's taking your job. But the people that you think of earlier on in your career's competition, a lot of those people fall out, and it's drugs and alcohol, it's complacency, it's ego, thinking that they're being a jerk, or financial issues. They don't they weren't disciplined on that level. I mean, you guys see it all the time in so many other different ways. So who ends up being their kind of after a certain period of time, a decade, 2 decades, they end up being colleagues. Like you want to work with them. But those are these like pitfalls that you can identify and try to navigate around as long as you call it out over and over. I mean, there's a reason why alcoholics are like, every day they say, I'm John Decker, I'm an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. But we as human beings need to have patterns, right? And when they need to be reinforced. I just started reading this book, Atomic Habits. It's actually pretty good. I haven't finished it, so I'm not endorsing on the podcast, but I was like, this all kind of adds up. He particularly, one of the analogies or the metaphors in there I liked so much was that if the plane takes off from Los Angeles and it's like a quarter of an inch of a degree or whatever, it's like 0.25 degrees off. I can't remember the exact math. But essentially, you end up in a completely different city. And it's like New York versus Miami. Because it just is compounded over time. Right. And I think in terms of the practical application of discipline, just because I know what I want so much. Like I know what I want. So I know I have to get there, and I can glean from all these different examples of what works. It's like I'm not the best actor. Earlier on, I knew I wasn't the best. I just knew I was looking around, I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. You know, my level of taste was at a point that wasn't commensurate with my talent. But I could see that differential. So it's like, if I just keep doing it and I avoid these pitfalls and I just persist and work hard, then God willing, you know, my talent will meet my taste. And there is a practical side of this, which is, you need to figure out like what your system is, and everybody has a different system, and you can't judge your defaults. Like, I mean,
I think recognizing that is one of the biggest.
Oh my gosh, signs of maturity.
You know, signs of maturity, but a hurdle.
Totally.
And once you overcome that, then all of a sudden things become clearer. So I can see you hit that point, and now when you look at something,
I lose my keys just on a simple thing. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm just like, this is my key. I lose keys, so I have a tile. And I don't lose my key anymore. It's a system.
Love it.
That's cool.
You know, I have a huge deficit, dude. I could have been late this morning.
Yeah.
I put it on the mantle. When I came in, I want to see my kids. I'm undisciplined with where I leave the keys. But I found a system.
You found a system, works. You know, honestly, I got that for my wife.
That's awesome.
But it's one of those things where I think most people, they can't make it past that hurdle. And once you do, you suddenly visualize, you know, it's the same with us. We start off with practice. We didn't know how to run a business. The idea, we've basically gotten an MBA over the last 13 years, just learning and making mistakes and kind of working our way through. But now the vantage point, you wish you could take this person and rewind the clock back, 13 years ago, because now everything seems so much clearer. And I think that's, for all the listeners out there, I think that's really important to take in. You've got that goal, you have to have a system. And once you find your system, life becomes easier.
Oh my God.
But a lot of it is also time management, right? Now, your life has completely changed over the last couple of years because you've got twins. And I know you love to be with them. And you're a busy actor, okay? And you've got a family. And you have to take care of yourself. So making sure that you allot the time to yourself and make sure that's, to me, the hardest part of life. Because if you're busy like you are, and you've got a family, and you want to give everyone the right amount of love,
for sure,
especially yourself, that's the hardest part. To me, the hardest part for my life is giving enough time to myself, for whether working out or taking care of myself or meditation or whatever it is to better myself. It's the hardest. I always put that last, and I think it's probably better to put that first.
Do you meditate?
In my own way. Well, my prayer is my meditation.
Yeah, I mean, I meditate. And when I started doing it in a kind of a point of friction in my life, and one of the biggest lessons from learning to meditate was learning this, what you're talking about, is how important it is to take care of yourself. The same, they talk about putting the gas mask, the air mask on, oxygen mask in the airplane on before you put it on for your kid. And the reason why I bring up meditation is only because you're just sitting there doing literally nothing. You're quote unquote not, it looks like you're not improving, like versus going to the gym.
Sure.
Like that's like, okay, I'm giving myself the 30 minutes. You're asking yourself to sit for 20 minutes and say banana for 20 minutes over and over again is seemingly a huge distraction from the tasks at hand. But when you do it and you realize how much more efficient and effective you are afterwards, it's just a good parallel. It's a good paradigm to hold up to. I think about it like a slingshot. You're like, wait, I'm going backwards. I'm not doing anything. And then you go so much further. And
these are great analogies. I love it. I love them.
He's Mr. Analogy over here.
I love these. You're filling the pot here.
But doesn't it feel like that? It's like, no, dude, you gotta like. I mean,
is there a reason you like to say banana?
But no, it's any. It kind of is any word. I mean, they give you a mantra, and you're not supposed to say the mantra.
It's interesting you bring this up. I've been listening to a book called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's really a brilliant guy. And I don't know if you've read any of his work, but he talks about using meditation to basically cure more physical ailments and diseases than anything. And he shows that how he's done that. So there's really something to be said about making sure that within yourself you are at peace. Because the more stressed you are, the more your body will break down.
Oh my God.
And the more you harm yourself. So if you can find that kind of peace within yourself, then the chances of you preventing disease and also making yourself physically and mentally and physiologically better, I think it's all there. It's just a matter of, unfortunately, the way we've been taught in medical school, they left all that out.
Yeah.
They really did. I mean, we took this, pathology and biochemistry and everything that's really black and white. This is what causes this. This is the bacteria that causes this. This is how we treat this. But nobody taught us, hey, listen, your body's breaking down if you're stressed.
Literally.
So if you can avoid that,
and you could
that
probably
stress,
heal it by.
But we do.
It.
I would actually love to circle that a little bit more with you guys because you see it physically manifested, right? And we can test it for sure. There's empirical things you can look at. But we also, people are comfortable talking about what happens when somebody scares them. And, you slam on, you're looking at your phone and you slam on your brakes because there's a car and you have this immediate, whatever the chemical reaction, right? I mean, that's real. Right. And, again, talking about like looking at the parallels in different fields, sports being a really great one because when you implement certain changes, the ball goes in the net or it doesn't, right?
Sure.
It's very clear.
Absolutely.
I've always been interested in and talked with these guys who are on special forces who are going to execute a mission and they're going to break down a door and they're going to kick down this door and they're going to open up to a firefight and it's guaranteed. Yeah. And their conversations around stress are so life, it's life or death.
Yeah, altering. Yeah, I mean that's
absolutely.
And peripheral vision. There's things that we're comfortable talking about, but then there's things we seem not comfortable talking about, like the fact that all of conflict in the world comes from men not being able to sit quietly with themselves. I mean, it's just kind of wild.
I mean, that's perfectly said. It's very true.
That's so funny.
It's the truth.
But tell me about because you see photos of presidents and they go in there and they look like you. And then they come out and they're right,
beaten and broken. But
you see it all the time.
All the time.
Yeah,
but we make them look better though here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you definitely see it's that somatic representation, the physical manifestation of a mental issue, and you see how something wears away at someone and it can age them so rapidly.
Literally.
I mean, it's amazing because there are some people they've lived with stress their entire life. They come in and for sure, the first question I'll ask is, were you a smoker? And I'm surprised sometimes when they say no, because there's such distinct changes to the skin based off of that.
Elasticity of the skin?
Definitely. Loss of collagen, it's just a leathery transition, to the face. And then you kind of get into the meat of their family life or history or something like that. And it's always some traumatic event or, it really is interesting. That's why it's fun for us to be able to, and literally fun for us to be able to reverse those signs of aging. It's so gratifying when someone comes in and, a tear wells up because you have completely changed their life. And I know a lot of people say, all right, listen, this is vanity in Beverly Hills. It's not always the case. Each one of us should want to be the best version of ourselves. And whatever that means to that person, I think is important. So if someone, internally feels amazing, but externally continually someone's asking, why are you so tired? Or why are you angry? Or why, when they're not, for us, it's fun to be able to reverse some of those changes.
Sure.
So,
and what we're talking about here isn't necessarily saying if there's been a stressor in your life, if there's been heartache or grief or trauma doesn't mean you, by any chance, blow it off. It's just coping with certain things the right way and letting that stress that's in your life, dealing with it and overcoming it. In life, there's going to be so many obstacles that are going to be thrown at all of us. And it's just how we deal with all of them and how we control them.
Going along that vein, so I'm imagining a stress reliever for you is your exercise routine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what do you do? I mean, you guys can't see.
Take out your pens and papers.
You can't see him right now, but he looks like he's got about 3% body fat, and I'm sure is in the best shape.
No,
of his
I
life.
mean, I turned 40, and there's like these certain things are important to. I feel comfortable acknowledging my mental health is deeply connected to my physical experience of the day, and I just have to go.
Yep.
I just have to do something physical, or something will manifest itself that I don't want. But I also see that in my kid, like my son in particular. My daughter, not really. Like my son needs to run, he needs to move.
Yep. Blow off that steam just to, so he's mentally he's doing well.
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Yeah, and I always had to have that. I think there was just a certain point where I have to acknowledge that, to your point.
I'm just pulling up a picture.
Oh my God.
Just so we can mess around a little bit, because this is not normal.
There's my wife.
That's the picture.
Very big. Yeah. I hope
it'll come up.
I hope there's gonna be some E-Trade, content that's gonna come up. People are gonna get it.
I don't want to see Melissa McCarthy. That's the opposite of you.
In learning, in a lot of your characters, because they are fighters and very athletic, did you have to learn all new disciplines? Did you have to learn jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and all these?
Yeah, well, I
different
definitely
things?
got very into that. I mean, that's just like become a huge passion. I thought it was very bad for society when I got into it, and now I'm like the biggest proponent, advocate, fan.
Sure.
Whenever I travel, I try to drop in on the gym. I want my kids to train.
Love that.
And MMA is not like cockfighting for human beings. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Greco-Roman wrestling, Muay Thai, and boxing. And it's just the combination.
The combo of all, I mean, just incredible
flow.
athletes. My kids are into, they're 6, but they're in jiu-jitsu. Now I figure they
here in Beverly Hills?
Here. Actually in towards Larchmont. Mm-hmm. And they're in a studio, like Water Jiu-Jitsu. And it's such a great...
Not Cabrini.
No. It's called Like Water. It's
Like
up
Water.
It's on Cuenca and Melrose. But watching these little kids in there, it's so great because listen, they wrestle at home all day anyway, but now we're putting some direction behind it.
It's like teaching them another language. It's such a gift. And what you might not appreciate, maybe you do, I certainly didn't before I got into Kingdom, was that once they really take this to a place where they at least get a blue belt, they can roll anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Like you guys will take a trip somewhere as a family and you should schedule in going to a gym to let the kids roll and do, there'll be a very important, coach there or a great class. And the beauty of it, and again, particularly for men, you have to humble yourself. Mm-hmm. And physically humbling yourself in a place of combat is very challenging.
Next level.
But it's the only way to learn anything. Obviously, male or female. It's like say, hey, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, it's wiping away some fears that I think most of us have, inherently.
Totally. Because we've tied so much of our sense of self to, I can dominate you physically as a man. And that's just not how this sport works.
Yeah, that's for sure.
At all.
You'll be humbled really quickly.
And they will humble you quickly if you come in with that attitude.
Yep.
But on the other hand, they will give you gift after gift after gift if you come in there and just say, I'm here to learn. And it's it extends out to the fact that everybody has something to offer. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has something to offer. You have a black belt with 3 stripes. You've been rolling since you were 5 years old, and now you're 50. You end up somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You will learn something if you're hard.
For sure.
But it's cool. I mean, you guys do a family trip somewhere. You guys just go down to Disneyland and say we're going to do an hour and roll at this place, and they'll learn something. It's so cool. It's like a country club invitation, but in the world of combat sports.
I've got high hopes. They're already looking at other other disciplines.
Well, I don't know what other disciplines could they possibly be looking at. I mean, jiu-jitsu is the apex.
Well, jiu-jitsu, but they see taekwondo, they see kung fu.
I mean, it's not even an opinion. They don't have much to offer in applicable skill sets. I mean, they've got wonderful coaches for sure. I did kung fu for a long time; it's fantastic. But taekwondo's got a few throws, but that's kind of I mean, jiu-jitsu is the apex of this whole thing.
Yeah.
In terms of combat.
Yep. Listen, they love it so far. So I'm
on the discipline,
happy with
keep them on that.
Oh yeah. I definitely
if they do stand up, then it's a different game. But
no, it's a lot of fun.